Okay, so now we're still on the Lincoln Cent here, but now we're going to be on another topic of the Lincoln Cent. Starting in 1959, they had the Lincoln Cent out for 50 years at this point, and they decided to change the reverse of the coin from the wheat stock to the Lincoln Memorial, and the reasoning behind that was it was the 150th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. So just like when they made the wheat, it was 100 years of Lincoln's birth. So what they did was they changed the reverse of the coin. They kept the front the same, and that's basically, they didn't really change anything else about it. Alright, the design of the coin. The front of the coin was exactly the same as it was in 1909 when they created it. It is a portrait of Abraham Lincoln. The same one, they didn't change it at all, so it's still Victor David Brenner's design. And the reverse is the Lincoln Memorial, and it has United States of America, E Pluribus Unum, and 1 cent. And actually, to be honest, this is the first time, besides the $5 bill, which is paper money, so this is the first time on coins that I believe they had this, for a circulating piece, they had the same person on both sides, because Abraham Lincoln is technically on the back and the front, because he is sitting inside the Lincoln Memorial. Obviously, because it's a Lincoln Memorial. But the front of it stayed the same, and they just changed the back of it, so they really only changed half the coin. Alright, so the designer of the reverse of the coin was Frank Gasparro. Just a little bit of history about him. He was born in August of 1909. He died in September of 2001. He designed the Eisenhower dollars, the Susan B. Anthony dollars, the reverse of the Memorial Cent, and the reverse of the Kennedy half dollar, which you can see in this image right here. He is looking at. In just a little brief history, he was first brought into the mint, hired in 1942, and he was to be working under John R. Sinnock, who was, you'll also see in the series, well known in the series of coins. And the Lincoln Cent reverse, which we'll show you here. Here's the front of it, which was in the episode on the wheat cent, is Victor David Brenner. But the reverse is all Frank Gasparro, and I'll see if I can kind of get you a good magnification look at it. It's the Lincoln Memorial, 1 cent, United States of America, and E Pluribus Unum. So this was his first successful design, and he later retired from the mint, and then he eventually ended up passing away in 2001. But he was well known to be kind of the modern designer of his time. So many of the coins were helped by him. Alright, the designer initials. As you had seen in the previous video, it's going to be a little hard to show you, but right down here on the shoulder of Lincoln, you're going to see the VDB, because they replaced that for Victor David Brenner. And on the reverse of the coin, if you go to the right side of the Lincoln Memorial, it's a little hard to see, but right on the right side, they put a FG for Frank Gasparro on the back of the coin. Alright, so now we're going to talk about the composition. The first composition was what the basic Lincoln cent was, from 1959, which is the first year, which I have an example of here, up until 1962. It was 95% copper, 5% zinc, and tin mixed together. So that's the first composition. Then in 1962 up until 1982, it was 95% copper and 5% zinc. So there was no tin. And then in 1982, as you'll see, I'll zoom up here a little bit, this setup here has all of them from that year. In 1982, they changed it. The original was 3.11 grams, just like the coins previous of copper were. In 1982, they changed it, and the weight was 2.5 grams. So if you put it on a scale, you'll know the difference right away. And the actual metal itself was 99.2% zinc and 0.8% copper. But they also coated it in copper. So the actual total weight ended up being 97.5% zinc and 2.5% copper. So there's almost no copper in the new ones, which is why you see a hoarding effect on the old cents by some people in the markets today. And they all had a plain edge, and they were all 19 millimeters in diameter. Alright, mint marks. This one right here is a Philadelphia minted coin, which if you notice, the mint mark would be located underneath the date, which just happens to be 1967. And if you notice, there is no mint mark there. They also made them in Denver, which has a D, and they also made them in San Francisco, which has an S. Alright, so mintages. Really, the easiest way to put this is mintages are very, very high on pretty much every coin in the Lincoln Memorial set. Most of them were over 1 billion. I mean, there were tons and tons over 1 billion. A lot of them even in the tens of 20s and, you know, way up. All of them were at least 500 million, most of them over 1 billion. Some of them were even as high as 5 billion coins made between that 50-year span of the Lincoln Memorial. So they're very affordable to get. Like uncirculated ones, you could buy this coin for, like, you know, depends on if you're at a local show or if it's online or something, but it'd be anywhere between, say, 10 cents and like 50 cents. And maybe like 5 cents for the holder. There are a few dates though that people do kind of look for, but it's mostly the double dies and things of that nature, which we'll get into in the next part of this video. But there's not really any rare date in the series. They're all pretty much affordable. You can build the entire set for probably like 30-40 bucks. Alright, so key dates in the series. In 1960, they had two different types. They had a small date and a large date. And then there was also a Philadelphia and a Denver, so you ended up getting 4 circulating types. And the rare one of that is when they all kind of got mingled together, and you end up with a 1960 D over D, small over large date. So that's a coin that if you find that in, say, a graded holder, like this is a PCGS graded holder, good money for those. Also double dies, there were some obverse double dies, which would be on the Lincoln bust, which would be the 71 Philadelphia, the 71S, and the 84 was the ear, so just the ear of Lincoln was doubled, and the 95, which is probably one of the common ones that you will see, and it's pretty affordable too. Now for reverse double dies, there's the 83 Philadelphia, and there's also a 1990 Proof that had no S, which if you find one of those, they're very, very expensive. I think the last time I looked, it's about a $5,000 coin. And then there were some varieties in the late 90s into 2000 where there was, I'll try to show you on one here, what it would entail. If you look in the back of the coin, you'll see United States of America, and the A and the M in some of the 2000s issues. I know of them from 96, 98, 99, 2000. I know there were some. There were wide variety AMs, and there were close variety AMs. And there's a lot of different ways to do that. And also noted, in 1970, they circulated them from all three mints, Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, and the San Francisco version had a double die. And there was also a low and a high 7 version of the Philadelphia. So those are just some ones to watch out for, but again, the rest of pretty much all the dates of the series, unless you're going to try to get those special ones, all common throughout the series. Alright, what I'm going to talk about in the last piece of this video here, I'm going to kind of throw these out of the way a little bit here. What I'm going to talk about in the last piece of this video is what happened with the copper cent. We ended up getting rid of the copper cent, and one of the main reasons was cost of copper was getting high, as you know now. It's about 2 cents per penny if you were to do it with copper now. But I would just like to kind of take a brief bit of time to talk about what they were going to do with the copper penny. In 1974, they struck a bunch of them in aluminum, and they were going to try to do an aluminum alloy kind of thing, and they really thought it was going to work. And they ended up printing, I think they minted about 1.5 million of them, and they really wanted to get it to work because it was so much cheaper, but then there were other kinds of things like the metal is much lighter, easier to bend, easier to damage, those kind of things. So they weren't really sure what to do with it, and they ended up not going with it. And if you were to own any of those now, they are illegal. The government will seize them from you. You probably will get interrogated by the Secret Service asking you where they came from. So, you want to be aware of that. But it was said that none of them were put in circulation. Most of them were destroyed, and there is one, however, preserved in the National Numismatic Collection in the Smithsonian. So you could go with that. They also experimented with a bronze-clad steel alloy, which obviously they kind of did that in 43. They attempted with that kind of deal, but they ended up not going with it. And eventually, what happened is they ended up going with the zinc coated copper, and in 1982 they came up with this set, which this set here has all 7 versions of the 1982. It has large and small dates, coppers, and zincs. There were 7 different types. So I just wanted to put that out there. And I'm also going to note to you that I'm not going to do the new series where they have now, where they got the 2009s and then they have the Shield version. I'm this season is going to be all on these. There's going to be a season later where that's just going to be on the modern stuff, because it can get so complex as to what's going on with it. So many different designers and types and things of that. So those are going to be in a separate season later on down the line. So I hope you enjoyed all the information on the Lincoln cents. This is one of the best sets to get a young collector to start into. So it's really great to do that with.